think when you go to Facebook, it only lasts for a little bit and then it disappears.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, it's still there, but it goes off. Like if people don't see it within a day, it goes off their feeds. Where you go to Facebook, it only lasts for a little bit. There, but it goes off. All right. Got it. Okay. I close that so we don't have a vicious, annoying circle of listening to us talk. Oh, here, my friend Ron's coming in. I shall let Ron in, and then we'll warn him that we're recording it. And then what I'll do is I'll breeze through this, the 10 habits, and then at the end we'll save some time for some discussion as well. Hey, afternoon, kind sir. Just to let you know, you're being broadcasted to YouTube. Hopefully,
I'm not ready.
Well, you get ready because we're going live there anyway. I knew some other people would drag in here on time or early. There's Jerry. Afternoon, Jerry.
Hey, Dwayne, how are you?
Good. I got the construction guys doing stuff up. Oh no, it's the garbage. The garbage man's picking up my garbage. Not about healthy habits, but Maureen, good to see you. Happy belated birthday. It was this week was Maureen's birthday.
Thank you.
Did you do anything special for your birthday?
I went to my sister's place for dinner, and I'm in good company. Mick Jagger, he's 80. He's born on the same day as I was born, but not the same year.
You're a little bit younger than Mick, I think.
Yeah, and I have Carl Young, George Bernard Shaw, Vimy Ridge was open on the birthday, and Helen Mirren, the actress, she's born on that day. So a lot of good people.
A lot of good company born in July. My mother, who's deceased, but her birthday would have been on Saturday. So we actually went up and visited the cemetery as a good son can do. And she doesn't really know, she wouldn't really know if I was there or not on that exact day, but I was. So anyway, long story short. All right, afternoon. So what we're going to do is since I am broadcasting this, we're going to jump in and I'm going to kind of breeze through the 10 habits, and then I'll stop the recording and we can talk a little bit more in depth and kind of what's working for people and not necessarily have to broadcast everyone's business to the world. But I'll do the presentation so that those people that didn't make it today and say, oh, I wish I was there, I can just send them the link and they can watch the link, and then I'll turn off and then we can have a discussion that doesn't necessarily get broadcasted to the world. All right, let me just find, that's already being done. I just got to find my presentation slides here somewhere. 1 second. All right. And if someone's watching on YouTube, you can always comment on YouTube just where you're watching from, if it really matters, but sometimes we like to know. Where the heck is my, there it is. All right. Slideshow. All right. Trying to do this from Google. All right, there we go. So today's presentation, we're going to talk about 10 healthy habits of financial management. I also called it financial wellness. Pick your word, doesn't really matter. It's about habits. I'm not sure, my friend Ron's here. He might say, well, in whose opinion is it? Are they healthy? And what's the definition of healthy? It's content created by CPA Canada. I choose to use their content because they did create all the slides and did everything for me. So it's a starting point for our conversation today. So I'm going to run through the presentation. I'm gonna try to do it a little quick, not race through it, but just to kind of get you thinking. And then we'll kind of make a note of what the 10 are. And then later we can talk about, because Kathleen said, I just want to know what the 10 are. So we'll get that answer right now. We'll kind of get through them and then see where we're at. So current, looking at current. So part of it is also to, when we're going along this, is kind of think about what you're doing now, because you're probably doing some things that are good, like are healthy, and maybe you just not maybe it's a consistency thing, not you don't have to, as I say, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe there's things and we're just not consistently doing it, or maybe there's something and I always say when we go through this, we'll write them down, and at the end I'm going to ask you to pick one. Don't try and do like, I'm 51, so it took me 51 years to create the habits I have now. I'm not going to change overnight, but I'm going to pick one of these that I'm going to then put a little bit more focus on. It's good timing because we're hitting a new month next week. So for the month of August, I'm going to commit ahead of time, and I'm going to do a little bit more focused attention to one of the 10. I don't know which one yet, but I'll let you know. So think about that as well. So as well, if you want, I don't have it here. Like I do have it, but I'm not going to go through it today. But if you're curious, it's in the comments. You could say, hey, you could just type in the comment the assessment, and I can send you after the call today this assessment. And you can say, hey, this true or false, kind of where are you sitting today? All right. So the first one, nothing like jumping right into it. It's knowing where you stand financially, net worth, and cash flow. And some people are spreadsheet people. Other people are just like, I don't even know where to start. And that's where there's other tools that I work with that help with these two. And mainly if you're part of my email list, depending on what email list you are on, you would have got a note last week if you're a client about Winton. And Winton is an app that can help with both of these calculations. So as we get through, and at the end, if it's number one that you want to work with, I do have a tool that's free that can help with these two of knowing where you are. That's the biggest step. I helped a client do this 2 weeks ago, and that's the biggest step. It can be quite overwhelming and kind of scary to say, well, what's the number? Very empowering after, because then you're kind of, hey, today, here's where, draw the line, here's where I am, and then I can just improve from here. All right, so knowing where you stand financially, really important. This one sounds so easy. Live within your means, not my means, not the neighbors, not the Joneses. Living within your means, and something's got cut off there, but don't spend more than you make. And that can be a real challenge for us in the entrepreneurial world, because our cash flow kind of, personally, my cash flow kind of looks like this, and then so tax season was really good for me this year. So March, April, May, influx of cash. June, July, August, not so flush with cash. And it's how do we manage that month, like day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter, even years, and kind of managing our ins and our outs. So living within our means is number 2 on the list. Number 3, I posted up on Facebook the other day. I use Facebook sometimes just to kind of get a read from people. Sometimes people comment, sometimes they don't see it. But I asked what was like their number 1 financial advice that they had received. And a significant number, probably, I don't know, 20 people commented, probably a quarter or more said, pay yourself first. Now, they didn't say whether they were doing it. They said that was the good advice they were given. I have to go back to them and say, well, like, are you paying? Like, did you take the advice? And I'll just ask and I'll confess, I was much better when I was younger. I was a saver in my younger life and not so much a saver in the middle. And now we're kind of going back to the value, like appreciating or the understanding the importance of saving, not necessarily just putting money in a savings account, but putting money aside for not a rainy day, but putting money aside from today for the future. So of the 5 of us here, anyone want to, it's not about confessing, but just share is anyone here in the room, are you a self-proclaimed saver? Doesn't mean saving accounts, it just means you save again, I'll share a link where we look at personality types, and there's the spenders. Probably all know someone who's a spender. Don't say it's your wife, Jerry, because I don't know your wife, but lots of people, lots of guys say, oh, my wife's the spender, I'm the other person. But if you want to share just in the chat, if you are a saver, great. For example, my partner, I would say she is a saver because she's an investor. So again, she's putting money, like very disciplined at putting money aside in investments in her RSPs, kind of investments through work. It kind of goes back to that pay yourself first, is like take the 10% and put it aside first before you pay bills, before as self-employed people, we can do that before the government even gets their portion. When we were in jobs, the government got their EI and CPP and income tax first, and then we could pay ourselves after the government did their thing.
Dwayne, I'll put in my 10 cents.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it.
I'm going to be 80. And for most of my life, I was always living above my means until 4 months ago. And I think it was when I started having a conversation with you that it was recommended that what I do is to save. I'm on a pension right now. And at the moment, for the first time in my life, I don't have to make any money. So thanks to you and through my brother, I set up a savings account where I can't draw out the money. And for the last 3 months, I have been putting away $300 a month. What I want to mention to you is that it's the strangest feeling, and it's a mindset that I'm noticing that I have to spend it. And I'm going, no, you don't. And it's as if inside of me, one part of me says, you're going to save this money. I don't care what you think, because it's good for us afterwards. But I'm finding out no one ever taught me how to make money or save money. It was as if it was automatic that I would know what to do. And I found out for me, it wasn't automatic. So what I want to share with people now is I'm in a very strange place, because for the first time in 80 years, I don't have to get up and make money, but I want to. But I'm finding, and what I hope you talk about, it's not the activity, it's the mindset that I'm curious about, because if I can change my mindset about my perception of money, I may be able to enjoy my life, because I live a wonderful life right now. That is the first time in my life to be able to say this, but I still don't feel it. So I'm hoping you'll talk about changing the mindset with all this wonderful information so I can benefit from what you're sharing. So I just wanted to put my 10 cents in there.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing, honestly sharing. It is a challenge, and one of the things I'll expand on that is myself as a parent. So my son has his first summer job and he's making money and he's the kind of money's going out. And we asked him about like saving because he's supposed to be paying for helping to pay for school. And one of the things we had done previously was my partner had say like when he was shoveling snow and making some cash, she had to give half of the money to her. So he kept half, and half of the money went to her, and she put it in a separate bank account with his name on it. And there's $600 there. And then he kind of forgot about it. And that's kind of this whole part about pay yourself first, is not to forget about it, but have it go there so that we're living on 90%. So with him, what I want to do, and this is a great example, Ron, is that we don't have to wait till we're like, it can be at any age. So my son just got, for the rest of the summer, he's getting 3 extra hours a day. So he's working 5 and now he's working 8. So he's going to come into an extra $1,500 that he wasn't expecting. What I want to do is take that $1,500 and put it right and go, he's 19, so he can open a TFSA. He has $6,000 worth of TFSA room, and I want to put that at least $2,000 into the TFSA for him. It's gonna not attach to his debit card. B, he can now start to use the term about I'm an investor. I have a number of clients who are later in their life, and they still say, well, I'm not an investor. So even if we put in $100 into an account, now you can say, I'm an investor. And it's super important by taking that 10% and starting 1%. I'm going to be launching a program later this fall. I started it myself, but in September, where it's the $1 a week, and then you double it. So in the course of 52 weeks, by the end of 52 weeks, you actually have $1,200 in an account. And it starts, Jerry's smiling, but you start with $1, and then the next week you put $2, and then the next week you put $3, and it's really affordable. But if that's a big deal, you chop it in half, or if it's easy, you double it. And someone say, oh, it's so small, but I'm like, if all of a sudden someone in 12 months, if you had $1,200 in your bank account, what would you do with it? I love all these, like, no offense to our network marketing friends, but everyone's like, who could use an extra $500? And people are like, that just blocks people and like this deer in a headlight. It's like, just put $1 in a coffee jar. Actually, I literally have a canister in the closet where like you empty your change out of your pockets. The problem is people don't do that because no one uses cash anymore. But if you pay for something at cash and you get change, and someone gives you a loonie in change, you actually have a loonie you can put in the jar. So there's different ways but yeah, we're gonna get some ideas of how to help people. Like what works for you. Some people, oh, it's so small, but they don't do it, and then the small things become big things, and it prohibits them from getting started at all. Number 4, we'll keep moving on these. Credit. Credit's credit. Don't judge it, right? No one's like, someone said credit. As soon as they hear the credit word, they're just kind of get, and then, oh, credit's bad. Or credit's good. Leveraging credit. Credit's just credit. Maybe it's the banks that people don't like. But even that, why don't you like the banks? Like, they provide great services for us. Credit's just a word, right, Ron? Credit's just a word.
Talking about credit, it's the first time in my life after 80 years that I pay off my credit card as soon as it comes in. And I'll tell you again, it's a mindset change, Dwayne, that for me is the most critical thing.
It's so I'll share with you. I've been good at that for the last probably 2 years now. But sometimes I slipped a couple months ago. I slipped in that I miscalculated, and then I thought I had paid off the balance, and I hadn't. And damn it, they dinged me for $100. no, I went in and paid the balance like 3 days late, and they ding $100, and I'm like, why do I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like maximize my use of the bank's money. I'm gonna take it right up to the last day. Why? I make such little money, like the banks are paying you next to no money in interest in your bank account, that you can have like use it, but you can pay it like every 2 weeks. My partner's like every paycheck, as soon as she gets a paycheck, a portion, like every 2 weeks, a portion goes to the credit card, so that you don't never have this the credit card is always paid off, but you never have this big balance, because all of a sudden you put something on, it's like, oh crap, now it's like a significant amount. If you paid it as you kind of pay it as you go, use it for what it is. Because sometimes vendors only accept credit. I put like a bigger purchase on so I can use the bank's money for 30 days or so, because I know that some clients are going to be paying me in the next 15 days. But I moved away from that theory a lot too, where I don't buy stuff unless I don't put stuff on the credit card now unless there's money in the bank already to pay the bill.
Yeah, because
And it's not
I had
using
to
line of
use-
credit either to pay the bill. Like that's not money in the bank. That's
Mhm.
that's using other credit to pay credit. It's putting something on the credit card easily when you know there's money in the bank account when the bill comes, that you can easily pay it.
Mhm.
But building credit history, and again, there's a whole nother presentation about credit. One of the things we did do for my son, again, as a young adult, we did get a credit card in his name. So when he wanted to book his bus ticket or his train ticket, he could just do it himself. Yes, I'm a mean father. I'm like, I'm not paying for your bus ticket every time you want to come home. You have money. So he has his own credit card, so he can go online and do that transaction. He's not calling to use my credit card. Because no credit is not good either, because at some point he may want to buy a car or get a mortgage, and having no credit history is worse than having bad credit. So credit, understanding it. And here, again, we're not going to go deep into it. I think most people here are understanding kind of the good and bad credit. Credit, like interest is interest. Like people can talk about leveraging, and I have a number of clients right now that are a little to a lot nervous because their variable mortgages on their rental properties are now not cash flow positive. And everyone's like, oh, leveraging is the greatest tool. I'm like, it is, but cash flow is more important than tax deductible interest is nice, except if you don't have the cash to make the payments, then we have a different problem.
Dwayne, getting back to the credit card.
Yep.
I usually use my debit card, but I was having problems with my debit card. Like the money was there, but the actual card, there was something wrong with it. So I had to use my credit card. So then what I did was, when I was in the bank, I transferred the money from my where the debit card is to the Visa.
Yep.
And so I did it that way until I could get my new card.
Yeah. So again, credit and a credit card is that's a great example of it. It's a tool. So like, for example, like if you like, sometimes things have like limits, like so maybe your debit card has a $500 limit and you need to purchase something, or the Rogers network is down or one of the bank networks down, but you have a card with a different institution. That's why I always, for example, I bank with both RBC and Tangerine. So if my identity gets compromised on my RBC account and everything gets shut down and put on hold, I can still access some funds with my Tangerine account. Don't have a zillion. Like I have or I see some people have like 5 different bank accounts and they're paying so much in fees. Don't do that. Like again, we'll talk about what we can talk about right now. Like there is the insured deposits. So insured deposits are, I think it was 60,000. It's up to 200, but it's per account. So again, you don't necessarily want to be carrying. Oh no, anyone here? You don't necessarily want to be carrying like $500,000 in a single account, because the bank insurance won't cover all of that. So again, you want to make sure that you're distributing balances to make sure that you're covered from insurance point of view. But it's also like if you're with an institution, you have a TFSA, an RSP, checking account, savings account, you have that limit per that insurance per account. So you don't need to distribute your money across 10 different banks unless you have a lot of money. If you have a lot of money, then let's talk afterwards because I'd like to get.
Yeah, I covered myself because I deal with TD, RBC, Scotiabank, and Tangerine.
Oh, that's a lot.
Wow.
But again, that's super important though, is again, in taking inventory or having documents is to make sure that those are all kind of documented somewhere so that not that you're going to be leaving us soon, but there's like billions of dollars sitting with the Bank of Canada for unclaimed money from estates where people had bank accounts that weren't documented and they deceased, and either they don't have family or the family is unaware that those bank accounts even exist. So it's super important that if you have that structure, is again have an offline document, some papers in with your. We'll talk about, if it's not on this list, having a financial inventory that's included in your will so that your executor knows that there's money sitting in different banks at different institutions. Super important. All right, setting up a financial safety net. This is always a great one, and it's quite shocking. And I'll share with you a tip that I started with to get me moving towards this. Depending on the guru, yes, there's gurus out there. There's lots of financial gurus and the experts. I'm not sure who the experts are, but somehow they think like 3 to 6 months. And I'm like, start doing the math. And I know personally, we did the math just the other day on what 6 months was. And we're like, oh, crap. We're not quite near 6 months yet. We're more than a month. We're kind of in that 1 to 6 month range, and we're moving towards it. And I used to have none. Right. And then I'm a bit of a Dave Ramsey follower. I haven't done Dave Ramsey's whole program. Dave Ramsey's a financial guru guy in the US. And so he talks about baby steps. He has 7 baby steps. Baby step 1 is $1,000. So I did this a couple of years ago where in my Tangerine account, even though when I still had debt. So even if you still have debt, his thing is have $1,000 in an account, and it's a real emergency. It's like up on the wall, break, behind glass, and there's a hammer there, and it's like break glass only if it's an emergency. So the $1,000 is there because $1,000 is easy. It could be $10, $100. It's like 10 months, $100, and 10 months after $100, you got your $1,000. The idea of that $1,000 baby step is then if say you need to put brakes on your car and you don't have the cash flow, you could use that money so that you could avoid stacking more debt on your credit card. But it's got to be like a really tough go why you would spend that $1,000. It's not something that's like, oh, I went out for dinner and I need an extra $20 to pay my credit card. No, that's not what the $1,000 is for. The $1,000 is for real emergencies. So I did that a number of years ago, and it's amazing when you do that. It just gives you a safer. All of a sudden you can breathe a little bit more. It's like Ron putting $300. All of a sudden there's some money in his bank account. He's like, "Oh, what's that feeling? Oh, it's like I'm not waiting for my CPP or my dad. My dad's on a fixed pension. He's on a pension, teacher's pension, CPP, OS. If he doesn't have money in the bank account, he's got to wait till the end of the month for the pension check to come in. It's not a great feeling. Yeah, so that's setting up that safety, and it can happen at any time, right? What I do there? I went. Okay, this is a good one. Needs and wants. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we're doing okay. Needs and wants. It's asking about kids, and sometimes we have our needs. Again, when I talked about Winton, the Winton app, we plug in and we talk about committed expenses, so rent, mortgage, insurance. It's kind of scary where now is our cell phones now like a need as opposed to before when you were younger, like a cell phone was a want or it was a luxury. Now it's like a need. And we kind of looked at needs versus wants. Wants are those discretionary items. So like they got the Louis Vuitton shoes. Yes, the red soled shoes, fancy. I don't, but women probably know what Louis Vuitton shoes are. I am aware. And this is where we get bombarded by marketing about, hey, we get marketers trying to market us that they're needs when really they're wants. You know, Maslow's hierarchy is like food, like shelter, air. You know, if we had to pay for air, we'd be buying air first. It'd be amazing how much people would find $100 a month if they had to pay for air or we had to buy water, right? Like, people find money for like necessities is just what we deem as necessities. And it's a good exercise. I think there's probably a document I could share. If people haven't done the exercise, it's kind of doing that homework, and we do it inside the Winton app, kind of looking at needs and wants, but it changes, right? Where as we age, kind of what we thought was important changes along the way. I'll get Jerry to share about. Ask Jerry.
Oh, Dwayne, I went to the QuickBooks Connect conference.
Yeah.
And this bookkeeper was drawing for a iPad. I
Nice.
won the iPad.
You won it. Nice.
Yeah.
What are you using it?
Yeah. Well, first I didn't even know how to turn it on. So what I did was Google's my friend. I Googled it and said, okay, it's an iPad 9th generation. So I put that in and how to turn it on and turn it off. And it showed me a picture that, oh, okay. So I was able to turn it on and charge it up. And then what I did was I got my IT guy to come down and set it all up for me. And, you know, I'm paying him because I had no clue.
Is that
And,
Mr. Steele? Did Mr. Steele come down?
Pardon?
Mr. Steele, Gary?
Yeah. Gary came down and put it up for, you know, set it up for me. And then I went to the library and I downloaded Libby and got a book on it.
Hey, it's beautiful because it is, so you don't need a Kindle. So you can be in the library app and you can have the ebooks from the, and then also you have a bigger screen. We're looking at probably upgrading. We have
It's
like
it's a
we have
10
an
point.
iPad mini.
No.
And we've had it for a number of years and we're thinking of
This is a 10.2 inch.
Yeah,
tablet.
I just have to go to QuickBooks Connect next year. Maybe I could win one, and then I wouldn't have to buy one. But
And,
all right,
and
no,
the,
appreciate
and the
that's
thing
really
is,
good.
I put my games on too.
Yeah, there you go. And you didn't have to buy it, so you got something that was kind of a want, and you won it.
And this cell phone I won too. This is my first cell phone, and I'm a senior citizen. And
I
this
have
is
to hang out
my
with Maureen. Maureen's winning all kinds of things.
oh, and then the thing is, at a bookkeeping conference many years ago, I won a Lenovo tablet, but that's gone. Gary said that's no good anymore because it's too old.
Too old. Yeah. All right. So number 7 on the list is about delayed gratification. I think everyone's old enough here that we probably have been to an event or two that we probably have heard about I was gonna say the mushroom, not the mushroom. If you put mushrooms in front of kids, they definitely wouldn't be eating them. It was the marshmallow experiment where they put the little kid in the room and they said, okay, if the marshmallow is still here when I get back, you can have 2. And it was the idea of could you prevent yourself from eating 1 to get 2? I think we should try this with we should revisit this exercise with adults, not necessarily with marshmallows, but some alcoholic beverages or something, wine, or I don't know. But it is an important life skill to say, like, and it's something that can be, again, it's a skill. It can be learned. It can be retrained. We can retrain our brain. I've read some stuff with Dr. Joe Dispenza. We can even we can actually retrain or recreate our personality. Ron, we can create, not to show that Ron needs to, but it's interesting that we can actually retrain our brain on these things. So part of it is, and we kind of say, oh, it's a millennial thing. Now it's interesting. I was reading a stat this morning that insolvencies are up, and it's significantly up in millennials, where they're between kind of credit card debt and student loans. Student loans is tricky because, like, you really you can't, like, within 7 years, they won't let you wipe out student loans. So you have to wait to kind of like year 8, 9 before consumer proposals and will wipe out student loans, because they don't want people to say, hey, 2 years after you're going to do a proposal and wipe out your student debt. They don't let you get out of jail that fast with student debt. But it was amazing to say that the significant number of, like, the biggest increase in consumer proposals now is with the millennial age group. Now, remember, like, in case you're not aware, it always surprises us, the early millennials are now turning 40, I believe. So usually I think that it was like younger people, but it turns out like my sons are in their teens and they're Gen Zs, I think is correct. So millennials are older than what we think they are, that some of them are turning 40. But it's about having these financial goals. And if we have a goal and then kind of, again, delaying the gratification, it gets trickier as adults because we're like, I can afford it, I'm just going to get it now. And that's a mindset to kind of shift away from, because it can get us, including myself, it got me in trouble in the past with credit and carrying bad interest because I've pulled the trigger on a purchase before I really needed to. Because as soon as you buy something you don't really need, and then like the next day something breaks and you got to buy something that you do need, and cash is king and cash flow is not unlimited. All right. And then this isn't a goal thing. If goals is a thing, we can do another presentation and a whole thing on goals. We can go down the whole rabbit hole of goals. But again, it's right down the financial goals. Again, I'm going to do an exercise in September I'll share with you about goals and using values to set goals. And what is it that you value? Like I said, I'll ask Jerry about how his move is. Jerry, just not to share too much about Jerry, but Jerry recently did some changing of location and stuff. Smart goals. All right, number 8, tracking your spending. Anyone here like a big spreadsheet? Are you like we asked about savers? Is anyone here like a detailed tracker? I'll be honest, I am not. I use systems to kind of track my stuff for business. But my partner is she's a very detailed tracker of our household expenses. She could tell you what all our bills and what the amount is. And we actually calculated the other day. Good to know that, Sharon, we actually know like how much, like once our mortgage is done, we know pretty much, not to the penny, but close to the penny, what it's going to cost to run the household once the mortgage is done. And it's shockingly pretty affordable. But the only way you can know those numbers is by tracking what your actuals are. It's a good reality check to see where your money's going. A lot of people don't tell their money where to go. They just their money tells them where it went, and only tells them when you put it into a spreadsheet to track it. There's journals or spreadsheets. One of my clients, she's very detail oriented. She says she actually writes it in she has a journal where she actually writes all of her bills and stuff in. We're now going to work with her to automate some of it to make it easier. Find the problem areas, see where your money's going. Like, I'm sure when COVID happened, people didn't realize how much growth they spent on groceries or eating out. And then when COVID stopped happening, or how much people spent on vacations, and all of a sudden they couldn't go on vacation. And all of a sudden they had this influx of cash because their vacation or their entertainment budgets were a lot bigger than what they were aware. And when COVID happened, they didn't have that option to spend that money. So tracking your spending is number 8. Remember, you're going to pick one of these 10 that you're going to put some emphasis on for August. Number 9 is create a money network. Hopefully, maybe you'll pick me, is that I could be a resource on your network, not to be necessarily a tax person, but you came here today to seek some advice. So I'm kind of in the network. So it's choosing a supportive family, choosing supportive. Sometimes our friends and family are supportive, sometimes they're not. And the great thing is we can just go find some new friends or find some other people. It's like, who do you hang out with? And it's kind of the Jim Rohn thing. We are the average of the 5 people we hang out with the most. Unfortunately, I hang out a lot of times. Like I spend a lot of time with my partner, my life partner, and it's elevated me. It's amazing, right? Like who do we spend time with? Sharing our objectives and our plan. I'll share a little bit. I had an interesting phone call this morning. I went down and I had a conversation with Charmaine about what's going on. Just not everything. We're still independent, but it's good to have people to share things with. Ron and I have kind of over the last 2 years, we met probably 3 years ago and kind of on and off for 2 years and more in the last year. My friend Ron, who's here, we just get on the phone or get on Zoom and we have beautiful conversations. Sometimes I don't really know what we talked about after, and we're getting better at making action items, but just being able to share, like, have someone listen to some ideas. Jerry and I met for lunch the one day and we just had a conversation, not necessarily as a client, vendor, advisor, but just, hey, two guys having lunch together, sharing some ideas. Help with them with their financial management check-in. Sometimes it's just someone to check in with. It's like, hey, how are you? Like, how are you doing? This Facebook does that sometimes. It's like a kind of a bit more impersonal. I'm trying to do a bit more personal, where like Facebook says, hey, just checking in. It's like, well, pick up the phone and call somebody. Don't rely on them seeing a post on Facebook or not to see how they're doing. All right, number 10, divide and conquer. I know I kind of spoiled it at the beginning, but start small. He's like, man, wow, I'm going to do all 10 today. No, you're not going to do all 10 today. Create a plan, an education plan as well. Is like, pick one thing that you would like to learn about. I have a bunch of people went right to cryptocurrency, and I'm like, they're trying to learn cryptocurrency or they're trying to do option trading. They haven't even figured out how to do a household budget or cash flow plan yet. Why are you? It's like sometimes we're trying to make up for lost times, and it's more like people say my age where we had some financial hiccups along the way, and we're trying to make up for a 10-year gap. And we're like, I'm going to hit a home run today. No, you're not. Start small. Do what Ron's doing. I'm starting with really small. I'm putting $1 and double it each week. Put $1 in the jar. $1 more dollar than I had yesterday. Adapt one habit at a time. It's your money, it's your future. All right. And then again, I can share some resources. There's some budget calculators, some goal setting worksheets. And again, kind of based on what we talked, I saw Kathleen put in the assessment. So if some of the tools, and we'll talk about them here in a second, there's all kinds of resources. You can talk to me after. And that's the Q&A. Okay, let me stop sharing. And then, hey, if you're watching the YouTube recording, thank you. I'm cutting us off now. So if you enjoyed it, drop a comment. And if you want to connect, hey, there's a meetup group you can join. That's where most of these people came from. Or you can just get on my email list and you know when we're doing this stuff live if you want to join. But if you're watching the recording, thank you. Hit a comment, hit a like.
Could you go back to last? Could you go back to last slide? I just want to copy down that website.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just going to